It looks cool, that's all.
Pretty soon we're just all gonna be in FEMA camps.
I'm going to read an excerpt from Percy Bysshe Shelley. You can find a link in the show notes at djmcloud.com to the book that I'm reading from, The Complete Poetical Works of Percy Bysshe Shelley, on the Amazon Kindle store. I looked, and we were sailing pleasantly, swift as a cloud between the sea and sky. Beneath the rising moon seen far away, mountains of ice like sapphire piled on high. Hemming the horizon round, in silence lay on the still waters, these we did approach away. And swifter grew the vessel's motion, so that a dizzy trance fell on my brain. Wild music woke me, we had passed the ocean, which girds the pole, nature's remotest reign. And we glowed fast o'er a pelicid plain of waters azure with the noontide day. Ethereal mountains shone around a fane, stood in the mist, girt by green isles which lay on the blue sunny deep, resplendent, far away. It was a temple, such as mortal hand has never built, nor ecstasy, nor dream, reared in the cities of enchanted land. 'Twas like as heaven, ere yet day's purple stream ebbs o'er the western forest, while the gleam of the unrisen moon among the clouds is gathering, when with many a golden beam the thronging constellations rush in crowds, paving with fire the sky and the marmoreal floods. Like what may be conceived of this vast dome, when from the depths which thought can seldom pierce, genius beholds its rise, his native home, girt by the deserts of the universe. Yet nor in painting's light, or mightier verse, or sculpture's marble language can invest, that shape to mortal sense such glooms immerse, that incommunicable sight and rest upon the laboring brain and overburdened beast. Winding among the lawny islands fair, whose blosmy forest starred the shadowy deep, the wingless boat passed where an ivory stair its fretwork in the crystal sea did steep. Encircling that vast fane's aerial heap, we disembarked, and through a portal wide we passed, whose roof of moonstone carved did keep a glimmering o'er the forms on every side, sculptures like life and thought, immovable, deep-eyed. Looking at Kafka's book, The Trial, recently, and it was actually a while ago when I read The Stranger by Camus, but I was struck by the contrasts, which I'm sure have been noted previously elsewhere, between the two books, and also the similarities. They're both about young male protagonists who find themselves killed by the teeth of justice, but in very different ways. The Trial takes a character who seems to do very little of a highly criminal nature, and yet manages to make maybe a series of mistaken perceptions, or maybe just a series of impertinent actions, but doesn't play well into the court, whatever its real or imagined powers are in the trial by Kafka. I mean, that book, I think in some ways, is a look at the power of fear and uncertainty in legal matters and otherwise, but it also has kind of a even though it has an arc where the character maybe hasn't done any kind of high crimes, they aren't maybe very sympathetic, and then at the end, when they're killed by the system, it doesn't seem maybe even as upsetting as in The Stranger, where despite being in a tense situation and maybe trying to maybe just acting out of shock or fear, the protagonist there takes a fairly aggressive action of shooting someone 5 times and then is put on trial and basically about to be killed in the Northern African setting that the book is in, and that Camus was from. And these two books both have like a trial phase, and even though the protagonist in the trial, again, doesn't seem to have the this very sympathetic, kind of character. The way that the character Joseph K is killed at the end is pretty undignified. In fact, that's the last thought that he has as he's being stabbed, is that his indignity will outlive him. But in the storyline, he goes and basically gets distracted. He gets told he's being arrested by people who are setting up a kind of ad hoc court in the room next door in the boarding house that he lives in, and then a series of strange encounters with magistrates and lawyers happen, and you kind of wonder how much he's putting on himself and how much the system is really doing to him. And of course, this is in Europe, the land of Napoleonic law. It is pretty strange there. But at the end, there's 2 clumsy executioners passing a knife over the protagonist in the trial, and he thinks that he might be really responsible for killing himself. These are excerpts from Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. The ship starting. Lo, the unbound sea. On its breast, a ship starting, spreading all sails, carrying even her moon sails. The pennant is flying aloft as she speeds so stately. Below, emulous waves press forward. They surround the ship with shining, curving motions and foam. Poets to come. Poets to come. Orators, singers, musicians to come. Not today is to justify me and answer what I am for, but you, a new brood, native, athletic, continental, greater than before known, arouse, for you must justify me. I myself but write 1 or 2 indicative words for the future. I but advance a moment only to wheel and hurry back into the darkness. I am a man who, sauntering along, without fully stopping, turns a casual look upon you and then averts his face, leaving it to you to prove and define it, expecting the main things from you. To the States, or any one of them,
or any city of the states. Resist much, obey little. Once unquestioning obedience, once fully enslaved, no nation, state, city of this earth ever afterward resumes its liberty. To you, stranger, if you, passing, meet me and desire to speak to me, why should you not speak to me? And why should I not speak to you?
I read the book by Philip K. Dick called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Do they?
I don't know.
Is it about that?
It's a book about a bounty hunter and some somewhat dystopian future. I think it's supposed to be around 2015 or 2020, I don't know. And around now maybe. And there's a bounty hunter and he's going after these different models, and then it's like I don't know, like I guess it's sort of like a detective book, but it's sort of science fiction, and it has a all right, let's just put it this way. It has a very strange, like, robot sex scene. It's very kind of disturbing, but, like, disturbing in its lameness.
How so?
It's a robot sex scene. It's like this whole thing, like, there's this, like, pseudo-philosophical kind of side to it where, you know Mercer Street?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's this thing called Mercerism.
You're making all of this up.
Then there's this book that I finished reading. Do you want to hear about it?
Sure.
So it's this book called Paintwork by Tim Mahan. And it's about augmented reality. Now it's interesting. There's a term they keep using, specs. I think like spectacles, glasses, and there's different brands, like the tech brands. I think that are around now will make different ones. So people will have like Apple or Sony specs or whatever. So the heads-up display, the Google Glass type thing, I guess, has become commonplace for a certain group of society. So this guy's like a gamer. It's like set, I don't know, 30 years in the future or something like that. And so the first part is set in some British city, Bristol or Birmingham. Anyway, so it's like this person does these kind of art displays where people that are wearing a certain glass will see what he did to a billboard or a sign or some landmark. So he changes stuff to match his artistic vision if people are looking through the glasses that can see it.
Oh, interesting.
And then he gets involved in some gaming racket and goes and plays this virtual game. So they describe a game that he's playing with like rice patties and stuff, and then he's fighting a battle. He's going on a quest or something like that, and then he so I guess it's like a virtual reality World of Warcraft successor or something like that. Okay. And then I think he gets in trouble for videotaping it, and then he gets sent to a Chinese re-education center.
Chinese one.
I'm not sure, but like it's like this vision of the future where they already have people like in China that work in sweatshop conditions that do World of Warcraft work so that they can sell the characters to people.
Right.
Like I think he becomes one of those people because of his debts to the gaming underworld or something like that. maybe by force, like, so halfway through, this guy kind of drops out. But I think you've kind of heard about some of these big-time gamers that then get involved in the second half of the story.
Okay.
Which is set in Cuba. And so the second part is about this big augmented reality battle that this guy, I don't know, from like, I think Korea, Leo Kim or whatever, and then this guy, what are they, like Paul and Marcus, or these two guys from Cuba, they have like a battle, and it's this augmented reality game that has made its way around the world, and there's different versions of the software, and so they have these big battle robots that are virtual that they play in the game, but then the place Havana before the game gets flooded with cheap Chinese specs, so all the kids are watching the battle, and then they have another battle, and then that's pretty much it in the game. But for some reason those Cuban guys end up in a Cuban re-education center.
Sounds like re-education centers are not in really fun places.
Well, I mean, it's like a vision of the future 30 years away where Cuba is still closed off to the U.S. and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the writer was English or what, but yeah, so they it's this like vision of the future where there's these augmented reality games where people are driving on motorcycles and cars through like cities in controlling their thing. So they're actually going around the city doing that and people are watching, but the actual things fighting are all virtual.
Sounds like a good book.
All right, well, I'll try to come up with one that sounds more interesting for the next book segment. I'm running out of sunset, so I was gonna do The Dogs Are Closing In to The Dogs of Lakewood. So I was going to do a quick reading from the book. The beers that Yoss tried at college ranged a wide variety from okay stuff like Samuel Adams to incredibly awful stuff like Woodchuck hard cider. Yoss had been to London and knew about the many hard ciders out there in Britain. And it goes on. So, you can see a link to that on my website, pacificpelican.us.